Hello there, very good afternoon and welcome to Lunchtime News on TV1. For the news first, where the people come first. I'm Martin Satyanesan. Let's start off with a look at your headlines for this afternoon.
Ambalipitiya farmers continue Satyagraha campaign for the 8th consecutive day, demanding water for crops. Sri Lanka's paddy industry to suffer 18 billion rupee loss. Sri Lanka suspends use of rice to make beer and animal feed. Long queues to open bank accounts for Aswasuma funds. Political circles discuss elections and corruption.
ආණ්ඩුව කියන්නේ ශ්‍රී ලංකා පොදු ජන පෙරමුණේ බෞද්ධරයක් තියෙන ආණ්ඩු බලයයි කියන එක අපි පෙන්නලා තමයි අපි රනිල් වික්‍රමසිංහ මහත්තයා ජනාධිපති කළේ.
මේ රටේ පාලකයෝ හොරා කාලා හොරා කාපු සල්ලි ගෙවා ගන්න රටේ මිනිස්සුගේ සල්ලි ගන්න.
On to the stories in detail. Sri Lanka's irrigation ministry says that the only option to release water for the farmlands in the Walava zone is a Gin-Nilwala diversion project. Irrigation Minister Roshan Ranasinghe said the crisis will be raised at Monday's cabinet meeting. At the same time, it's been 8 days since farmers from Ambalipitiya launched a Satyagraha campaign demanding water for their rice fields.
Approximately 75,000 acres farmlands are cultivated in the Udawalawa region and 65,000 acres of the total area are dedicated to rice cultivation. Over 35,000 agricultural families depend on these rice fields for survival. The harvest from the Yala season is to be reaped soon. However, these rice fields are not receiving the sufficient amount of water. The farmers from Ambalipitiya have been requesting that water be released from the Samanalawa located above the Udawalawa reservoir for a period of at least 2 weeks to nurture their rice crops. The Ceylon Electricity Board warned that if water from the Samanalawa is released to the Udawalawa reservoir, as requested, a 3-hour power outage will have to be imposed for the southern province. The CEB noted that it raised this issue with Agriculture Minister Mahinda Amaravira during a meeting at the Ministry of Agriculture. At this meeting, the Agriculture Minister and the officials from the Ministry of Agriculture, Irrigation and Power and Energy discussed at length on the possibility of releasing water from the Samanalawa to the Udawalawa reservoir for a period of 10 days. The CEB officials had pointed out that if water is released as requested, the existing water levels would drop further and thus lead to power outages of up to 3 hours in the southern province. Irrigation Minister Roshan Ranasinghe said the matter will be raised with the Cabinet of Ministers on Monday, and if crops are destroyed as a result of this situation, measures will be directed to provide compensation. Sri Lanka's Agriculture Ministry said that if the rice fields do not receive water, the country would lose a rice production with an estimated value of over 18 billion rupees. Agriculture Minister Mahinda Amaravira said that if there are disruptions to the country's paddy production, the government will have to import rice to meet the demand, which would lead to an additional cost for the state. The minister also noted that rice importation is also facing a crisis situation as countries like India have decided to limit rice exports. However, the Agriculture Minister said that the matter will be discussed with the President and the Minister of Power and Energy in order to reach a solution.
While the farmers of Ambalipitiya suffered due to the lack of water for their crops, the farmers allege that purchasing mechanism is not being implemented properly in many areas of the island. However, the Paddy Marketing Board says the paddy is being purchased through 30 storage complexes in 11 districts.
Paddy is purchased at 30 warehouse complexes in 11 districts including Ampara, Battikalo, Kilinochchi, Mullatheu, Vavuniya, Trincomalee, Hambantota, Munaragala and Anuradhapura. But the Paddy Marketing Board says there is a lack of supply of paddy by farmers. The board said the farmers were not providing paddy, hoping that the private sector would purchase paddy at a higher price. These are the lands of Anuradhapura which have been cultivated. Paddy harvesting has already begun, but the farmers are suffering due to the lack of a proper price for their harvest. Farmers point out that the storage complexes where their paddy harvest is purchased have been closed. Meanwhile, News First reporter stated that the paddy storage complex at Hambantota is currently closed. Farmers in the area complain that the paddy warehouse, which was closed for repair work, has not yet opened for paddy purchasing. Farmers said that the paddy storage complex at Pallemalalla in Baligatha was also open the past few days, but now the storage complex remains closed. Due to this, farmers belonging to Hambantota Bandagiriya and Kalipura are inconvenienced from not being able to sell their harvest. News first inquired from the Minister of Agriculture, Mahinda Amaravira, about the closure of paddy warehouses. He said that even if the warehouses were kept open, the farmers would not bring the paddy. The Minister of Agriculture said that due to this, the warehouses have been closed.
The farmers of Dehiyattakandiya who cultivated additional crops are suffering the same fate of the paddy farmers. Due to lack of proper income from paddy cultivations, the farmers of Kudagala in Dehiyattakandiya cultivated additional crops this season with many hopes. Farmers point out that the brinjal cultivations are going to waste. The farmers pointed out that this situation has arisen after an unidentified disease affected the brinjal cultivation. Farmers point out that this disease is currently spreading to crops such as chili, pumpkin, mackerel and other crops. Farmers demand that a solution be provided immediately.
Agriculture Minister Mahinda Amaravira has instructed the Ministry Secretary to immediately suspend the use of rice for the production of animal feed and beer. The decision was taken to face the food shortage that may occur in the future due to the arid weather conditions experienced at present.
Agriculture Minister Mahinda Amaravira further informed to submit a letter prepared in this regard to the Secretary of the Ministry of Trade and Consumer Affairs and the Presidential Food Safety Committee. Paddy farmers are currently facing a severe crisis due to dry weather. The Ministry of Agriculture says that if there is no significant rainfall in the coming days, there may be a shortage of rice as the expected paddy harvest for the Yalla season cannot be reaped.
Sri Lankans were seen lining up opposite state banks on Monday morning to open bank accounts to access the Aswasma funds.
The Sri Lankan government decided to introduce the new Aswasma welfare benefit program to replace the Samruddhi program. However, the new program has led to a plethora of issues. Due to issues that arose with regard to the process to identify the beneficiaries, provisions were made for the submission of objections and appeals. Following the data analysis, letters are being issued to the families that were selected for the Aswasma welfare benefit program. Beneficiaries are required to produce this letter to one of the 4 state banks in order to open the bank accounts to access Aswasma funds. Locals from Baddegama were seen lining up at state banks since early on Monday morning. However, many claimed that they were compelled to line up for days and yet not given an opportunity to open the bank accounts. People were seen waiting in long queues in front of the state bank located in Kurunagala, Mallavapiti area since early on Monday morning.
Against a backdrop where the people are facing various crises, the political sphere has heated up regarding elections. The SLPP Katana Balamandala meeting was held in Radulugama. These were the views expressed.
Some
said that we clung on to the UNP. No, we did not cling on to the UNP. Ranil Wickramasinghe is just one person, but the government is an SLPP government with the majority of power vested in the SLPP. We proved this by appointing Ranil Wickramasinghe as the president. The agenda is ours. They are speaking of the 13th Amendment. That is not our principles. We have a different plan for it.
අපි කියලා තියෙන්නේ 13 මේ විදියට කරනවා කියලා නෙමෙයි වෙනත් කතාවක් අපි අලුත් ආණ්ඩුක්‍රම ව්‍යවස්ථාවක් තුල නොදකපු රුව හිතේ මවාගෙන දුටු ගැමුණුට වඳින අපි නූතන දුටු ගැමුණුට මයින කියන්න තරම් ජරා ජාතියක් බවට පත් වුණාද මගේ අම්මේ වැටුණු හැමතාවෙම නැගිටවන
Basil Rajapaksa, who lifted the country up every time we fell, was called a crow. They blamed Namal Rajapaksa, saying he lives off stolen money. Why did you people have no power to rise up against this? It is not slavery. It is our pride.
We have become a bankrupt country waiting to receive money from the IMF and the World Bank. Inside your hearts, you know that the future of your children has been sabotaged. It is because we understand that we are rallying together again.
A party meeting of the Samagi Jana Balawegaya was held in Polonnaruwa yesterday.
They know the mandate they will get. That is why they didn't hold the local government election. The Ranil Wickremesinghe clan that feared the local government election is now speaking of a presidential election. Today the government is helpless. The president has no mandate. He walks away when elections are requested. We would like to tell the government to give the people a chance to exercise their franchise, hold the elections. 3 elections should be held. Before making plans for 2048, the government must take steps to reduce malnutrition, reduce poverty and make way for people to live.
Views on the election were expressed during a meeting of the Jatika Jana Balawegaya in Bulletin. Ranil Wickremesinghe cannot call for presidential elections just like that. Section 13A of the Constitution clearly says that an incumbent president cannot call for an election prior to the conclusion of his or her term. This can only be done by the elected executive president. If not, they will have to change the constitution by obtaining a 2/3 majority in parliament. However, Wickremesinghe does not have the 2/3 majority in parliament. The rulers are getting richer while we are regressing. We cannot let this continue.
ඒගොල්ලෝ පොහොසත් වෙනවා අපි හැමදාමත් වියගහ කරගහගෙන දුක් විඳිනවා තව දුරටත් පැංගිරලා කිරිපුස්සල පස්සේ යන්න බෑ
SLPP MP Madhura Vithanage notes that businesses facilitation in Sri Lanka remains at a weak position. He was speaking during the media conference held at the Presidential Media Centre.
රට තුළ ව්‍යාපාර පහසුකම් කිරීම කියන කාරණාව ඉතාම
Business facilitation in the country is very weak at the moment. Business facilitation index is an important one. We are currently placed 99th in this index. We are here because we don't have proper regulations and also due to various problems in the public and private sector. We hope to introduce a law for business facilitation. Without doing so, we cannot overcome this. The investors are under certain misconceptions that there are red tapes in Sri Lanka and that there is bureaucracy. They even think that the state principles change. Sometimes the principles change when the minister changes. These are some problems we encounter.
අපි විශ්වාස කරනවා අපිට ගොඩ දාගන්න බැරි වෙන දේශ ආයෝජකයන්ගේ අතර මතයක් තියෙනවා ලංකාවට යන්න එපා විශාල රෙඩ් ටේප් තියෙනවා විශාල බියුරෝක්‍රසි එකක් තියෙනවා විශාල නිලධාරීවාදයක් තියෙනවා ඒ වගේම රාජ්‍ය ප්‍රතිපත්ති වෙනස් වෙනවා සමහරවිට.
Meanwhile, subject experts expressed the following views on the current state of the country's economy during the conference yesterday. The conference was organized by trade unions affiliated with the World Federation of Trade Unions to underscore the importance of social security systems.
මේ 2022 රජයේ සමස්ත ආදායම පියල් බිලියන 2094ක්.
The total revenue of the government for 2022 was 2,094 billion rupees. The expenditure was 4,427 billion rupees, which is higher than the revenue. In 2023, the tax revenue is projected to increase substantially to 3,130 billion rupees from the current level of 1,850 billion rupees. The expenditure is also projected to increase to 5,819 billion rupees. The interest cost in 2022 was 1,379 billion rupees. In 2023, it is projected to increase significantly to 2,193 billion rupees. As a result, the budget deficit of the government in 2022 was 2,323 billion rupees and is projected to be 2,404 billion rupees in 2023. The government has failed to reduce the budget deficit despite increasing public taxes, taxes for government institutions and other organizations. The extent of the crisis is now clear. The government must find these funds. There is no way to secure these funds because certain main categories have been added as revenue. These funds need to be borrowed now.
මේ සල්ලි ටික හොයාගන්න වෙන විදිහක් නැහැ. මොකද ප්‍රධානයන් විදියට තියෙන ටික අපි already එකතු කරලා තියෙනවා මේ ආදායම් හරියට. දැන් මේ ටික ණයට ගන්න ඕනේ.
The chairman of the Intercompany Employees Union, Vasantha Samarasinghe, expressed the following views on the threat to the ETF-EPF.
The rulers in this country are not trying to rob the EPF and ETF funds in billions but in trillions. In reality, the funds of the people are being used to settle the funds robbed by the rulers. The forensic audit reports from 2022 indicate that 9.5 billion rupees have been lost after investing in the stock market. We know that they were robbed from the bond scam in 2015 and the EPF lost around 4.5 billion rupees. There are also companies that are not even listed, which means that the EPF has provided funds to private companies. Once these companies close down, there is no way to recover the funds.
Chairman of Lanka Satosa, Prasadayapa Abewardhana informed today that customers will be able to purchase Indian eggs through Satosa stores in 4 more provinces starting today. Starting today, we will distribute stocks of eggs to Kandy, Nuwara, Badulla and Hambantota districts. Eggs are currently available for sale in 9 districts and we have sold close to 1.7 million eggs. Based on the advice from the Economic Regulatory Corporation, we are distributing these stocks through freezer trucks. We've also instructed retailers to keep the stocks in freezers. If eggs are stored at room temperature in other places, we request consumers to consume them within 4 days of purchase. The Monoragala District Disaster Management Unit reported that 3 fires broke out in forest reservations in the Monoragala area. Deputy Director of the District Disaster Management Unit, Ravindra Kumar, stated that the fires were reported in Madulla Talava, Kumbukkana and Madagama Kotaboa reserves. In a separate incident, a fire broke out in the Knuckles Reserve near Hunnasgiriya.
News First correspondent noted that there was heavy smoke around Hunnasgiriya.
Shifting your attention to international news, Ukraine's President Vladimir Zelensky has warned boys coming back to Russia after a drone attack on the capital, Moscow.
Zelensky said attacks on Russian territory were an inevitable, natural and absolutely fair process of the war between the two countries. Russia's defense ministry said 3 Ukrainian drones were downed on Sunday, with 2 crashing into officers. Nukovo Airport southwest of the city centre was also briefly shut. The drone attack in the early hours of Sunday is the latest that Moscow has blamed on Kiev. In a video address on Sunday, Zelensky said that Ukraine was getting stronger.
At least 44 people have been killed in an explosion in Pakistan during a rally organized by an Islamist party.
More than 100 people were also injured in the explosion in northwest Bajau district, where Jamaat Ulema Islam Fazl was holding a meeting. Police said they have found evidence suggesting the explosion was a possible suicide attack. Officers said a rescue operation has been completed and all injured have been taken to hospital. Officials have warned the death toll may rise further as 15 people are in a critical condition. The motivation behind the attack is not yet clear. Security forces have cordoned off the area and an investigation into the explosion is taking place.
From that, we bring to a close this edition of Lunchtime News on TV1. For details of these stories and much more, simply log on to our website www.newsfirst.lk. For the News First, where the people come first, I'm Martin Sattines, and you take care and have a great day.